Hello everybody and welcome back to Planet Coaster 2 and welcome back to Silver Sands. We are back for episode 2 and I've got some good plans for what I wanted to do today, so let's jump into it. Now, we're starting off here where we left off last time with our entrance and not much else besides a few rides sort of plopped down. And the main thing I want to try and tackle today is this kind of entrance plaza and maybe a bit of Midway stuff and sort of figuring out how that all works. Because it's a little bit of a weird one for me because most of the projects I've worked on in Planet Coaster over the years, really, not exclusively, but most of them have been parks that have kind of a main street or at least some kind of welcoming area as you enter the park, right? The entrance to the park is built around some kind of, curated space that's designed to welcome you in and then sort of propel you out into the park. Whereas I feel like with this, that's not really going to be the vibe, and it's going to be much more just sort of you walk in and it's just... the park is just happening to you, basically. And yeah, I guess Jonty talked about this a little bit in his latest episode of Saving Storybook, where there's a similar thing happening in his park where it's like you come through the entrance and it's just kind of, there's not a lot there. You're just sort of sent off into the park. There's like a tiny little kind of welcoming area and that's it. But yeah, no gift shop, no plaza, no fancy fountains or planters. It just is what it is, which is weirdly hard to do. The one thing I do have is this reference image of a little ice cream stand, which I want to try and kind of incorporate into what I'm going to do. And I'm thinking basically there's just going to be like a row of shops or a row of food stands around here somewhere. It makes sense to me in my mind that you would kind of come into the park and there would be a kind of a, even if it's not a heavily curated space, as it were, there's at least going to be some food and somewhere for you to sit, like near the entrance. And then, Midway stretching off in this direction. And then maybe there'd be like a second food option down here somewhere. But I'm not really imagining the park being much bigger than over here somewhere, basically. But yeah, so I've got this reference and I'm going to have a go at building some shops. And I'll see you in a bit. Okay, here we go. We are back, and as you can see, some building has occurred. Using that little ice cream reference as a jumping off point, I've kind of produced this little row of food stands here. Obviously, I didn't directly copy the reference. I actually ended up grabbing the idea for this kind of soft serve roof on the building from another reference that I saw, which I thought was really cute. And then obviously we've got the tiling down at the bottom here. This is a trick. I think I first saw Mary's Revenge do this in his Disneyland park, and I've seen a bunch of other people do it since then. And yeah, it's just using this, I think it's a grid fence piece, and you can just put it against any sort of background and it creates a very low piece count kind of tile effect. Really useful. And then yeah, I just sort of improvised the rest of these little facades here. We've got hot dogs and burgers, a little cotton candy stand at the end here, using a bunch of workshop stuff inside here just to kind of fill out the sort of kitchen side of things. I think I am going to need to make a soft serve machine because I've had a look and I can't find a soft serve machine on the workshop, and that is imperative. Also had the fun idea, I think I may have stolen this idea from Matty Arkezman on Bro Nation, who's a great poster who sadly doesn't do YouTube or anything, but he's been working on this amazing Japanese inspired park. He's got at least one counter in that park where the shutters are down. I thought that's a great idea. I'm absolutely yoinking that. Yeah, that's kind of going all the way around here. Like this one's almost completely shut and then the others are just kind of in various states of being opened, just to give a fun little kind of illusion that they're there. Now, I am happy with this. I especially like this little hot dog stand that I made, but I posted it on the Bro Nation Discord, and friend of the channel Nitro, I don't think he necessarily meant anything bad by this, but he said, it reminded him of like the Jersey Boardwalk, and I was like, yeah, it does kind of look kind of boardwalkish and not necessarily in a way that I really want it to. So I think I'm going to rework this a little bit to try and bring it a bit more in line with the kind of mid-century modern vibes that we're going for in the park. And yeah, I did add some little kind of covered seating areas here just to try and get a bit of an idea of how that might work. You sort of come in this way and then yeah, you've got the kind of, you go off this way towards the main Midway, or you can go right here where we've got this flat ride, and I guess there'll be something over in this corner, I'm not sure. We'll figure that out. I've also brought in these Midway games from the workshop. These are made by another prolific creator of good things. I think he just goes by Josh. And yeah, he's got these great like Midway game pieces which don't have any like building around them, so you can just construct the building to go around them. But the games themselves are really nicely made. And he's also got an absolute shed load of arcade machines. I'm sure you've already seen them on there if you're checking out the workshop, semi-regularly. So yeah, I'm probably going to use those to build an arcade at some point as well. That's it so far. So yeah, what I'm thinking is we're going to have a little look at kind of redesigning this row of stalls a little bit because, yeah, as I say, not totally convinced that it's fitting the vibe. I think I can do better. So I'll be back in a bit with another little update. Okay, we are back, and I've actually done quite a lot of stuff. It's been a classic case of I've sort of disappeared, several days have elapsed, and quite a lot of stuff's happened, so we've got lots to catch up on. But obviously we will start here again with the little row of shops, which I've updated and I'm now much happier with. The first part of this, honestly, was just updating the square tiles. As cool as that fence technique is, I don't know, yeah, I think these more rectangular tile shape just feels much more kind of mid-century modernish to me. That's really helping sell the vibe. And then it's just about kind of continuing that tiling with slightly different pattern variations across all of these food stands here. And then the other big thing was having a big kind of like cantilever overhang, which basically stretches around the whole building like this, and bringing in this lighting on the underside. To me, that's just really giving it much more of a kind of mid-century silhouette. And of course, we've still got the soft serve sitting on the top there, just to keep it kind of in the same world. And I did end up making a soft serve machine, as you can see here. So that's looking nice on the counter there. Also made some of these little kind of plastic bins using the drapes piece to act as a kind of bin liner. I'm not sure if these bins are going to function. I did hide bins underneath the path here. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not, but I just love the way these look. It feels like the exact kind of thing that they would have in this sort of park. Another little thing I've worked on, I thought these kinds of, an older park like this may not have like super modern speaker systems, so I thought this kind of style of loudspeaker would make a little bit more sense, and this, I just made this using a bunch of the guttering pieces like this. And then our old friend signpost in the middle there, and I've got these like sprinkled around the park, and yeah, they're just helping to sell the whole vibe. The hot dog stand has been noticeably downgraded in terms of its sort of visual flair, and in some ways I think it looks better now, just being this kind of really plain plaster wall basically, with like the text kind of painted onto the wall. It's the classic red line hot dogs, which I think Mask Bandit has used a bunch, and that will become more pertinent in a minute for reasons that we'll get to very shortly. And then yeah, not much has changed along here really. I've updated the menus. I've also started using the Rancho font everywhere, which I just think you get this nice kind of classic looking font design with them, so I think they actually work really well for this kind of 60s 70s style thing. It looks really good. I'm really happy with how this has come out now. And then I also slightly updated this little food area, the little kind of seating area here. I wanted to make some folding chairs and some simpler kind of like metal tables that felt a little bit more in line with what they might have at a park like this. And then of course I couldn't resist just having this second area being empty and all the chairs are folded up. And someone's been cleaning this table here with a little spray bottle. Before we go left, I'll just show you on the right here, I've just started kind of decorating out this flat ride, but it's pretty incomplete at the moment. And I made some little benches here based on an old reference image I saw. Sadly, they're not functional. I really wish we had some like super generic picnic benches like this in the game. But alas, we do not. So we must struggle onwards. And I guess next up we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, which is this absolutely massive update to the coaster that's occurring in the background here. Yeah, Redline slid into my DMs and asked if I wanted him to rework the coaster. Obviously I can't say no to somebody who's good at building vintage coasters sliding into the DMs and asking if I'd like them to build the vintage coaster for me. He's built a really nice layout. I think it's kind of, there aren't that many kind of still operational woodies from the 60s that you can work from in terms of inspiration. So I think this is kind of inspired by a couple of things, one at Knoebels and then Swamp Fox I think it is in Myrtle Beach. The custom supporting isn't complete yet, but you can already see just from the little bits that have been done already, it's just looking so nice. Love all this stuff here. It's looking great. I'm very happy with it. Redline seems really happy with how it's going so far. And yeah, the coaster is still called Cali Breeze. And I was originally thinking that this station might be in a kind of mission style. I don't know if you noticed, previously it had this kind of the very beginnings of a wall basically that I'd built that was like a plaster wall with a bunch of archways in it. And then in looking at the kind of references and stuff, I just really like this kind of retro. The one at Myrtle Beach has got this kind of similar kind of station where you've got this sort of this kind of, I don't know what you'd call this. Is it a trapezoid? I don't know. Some of the shape demons in the comments will let me know. But yeah, it's this kind of shape where it's wider at the top than it is at the bottom. I mean, it's basically just very straightforward. The queue kind of stretches around the back of the food services here, and then just a simple little ramp up to the station. I'm not going to show you too much inside here because this is still very much work in progress. I need to rework a little bits of this, but I'm dead chuffed with how it's coming out. Redline absolutely smashed this coaster. It's a little bit bigger than what we had before, but you still very much get this kind of sight line from outside the park with it sort of looming over the top of everything. And it still runs along next to the Midway here. I thought it'd be fun to have a sort of worn out sign painted on the wall here asking if you want to go again. I think because it's the kind of park where obviously you can buy a pass that lets you ride everything, but a lot of people would turn up and just buy one ticket to ride on the coaster. So they're heavily incentivizing that you may want to take another ride. I also made some lampposts to copy around. I wasn't sure exactly how to deal with lampposts, and then I was watching a video. It was actually a review of a supermarket somewhere in New York. Can't remember how I ended up on that. Yeah, they had these kinds of like really old school looking lamps, and I was like, oh, those look really cool actually. I'm going to steal that. So yeah, I've copied those around, and some of them have got the little loudspeaker up on them for sort of, announcements and music blaring out. And then, as you may have spotted, we've got the beginnings of the Midway going here. So on the right, we've just got this really simple kind of structure that's repeating the same kind of style as before. I thought it'd be fun if this facade here was made up of kind of coloured panels, and some of them are slightly more faded than others. Otherwise, this is just a really simple structure. Nothing really crazy to talk about here. And on the other side, we've got a little bowler roller. Again, it's all just about these kind of overhangs that just sells the mid-century vibe really well. And I was pretty chuffed with this little custom sign that I made for this one, actually. I also made these little kind of these like long benches, which are actually functional this time. Yeah, they're kind of covered up with this like big sort of bench cover. And then I thought it would be fun to kind of have paid advertising up on the back here, or on the middle rather, so that, local businesses along the road could pay to have advertising here. I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but yeah, I think I'm going to build a kind of go-kart facility near the park here somewhere, possibly just the other side of the road. And then I'm going to build a diner as well called the Desert Rose at some point. And then on the other side, we've got the Sizzler, which is the kind of scrambler flat ride. As with all these flat rides, it's got an absolutely massive footprint. So I've tried to kind of position the entry and exit just in this little side here. In fact, I may even move this entry like around here, and then hopefully they literally will walk up these stairs and off these stairs, which keeps this area here free for me to pretend like it's actual functioning pathway, even though obviously people are never going to walk on here. I'll just put it into test mode at night time here, and you can see it in its full glory. But yeah, this was my first proper foray into kind of attaching scenery to a flat ride like this, and I really wanted this to have this kind of classic gaudy look with the lighting and everything. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity to get involved with that and give it a go. And yeah, I'm really chuffed with how this came out in the end actually. While we're in night mode, it's worth pointing out that the station here is similarly kind of lit up with strip lights. And then we've got the kind of string lights up on top of the sign here. Also lit this little row of shops here, and I wanted to have this kind of one of these lights slightly malfunctioning. I thought that would be a fun little detail. So that's flickering on and off. I need to get like a sound effect and bring that in on a speaker to really kind of sell the whole effect here. But yeah, I don't usually like get super deep into like lighting at night, but I think for a park like this, it's going to be really important for kind of selling a lot of the vibe, especially with stuff like this. So yeah, and then the last little thing, which I'm not going to talk too much about this time because it's half complete, but I don't want to completely ignore it. But I did make a little start on an arcade here, as I said, using lots of it's all Josh's arcade cabinets. And I'm going to build a little kind of prize counter here, which you could approach from multiple sides. And because it's so big, I was thinking that the facade might change on this half of the building. So I've only built half of the facade so far, and obviously it's still not completely detailed on the inside in any way, shape or form. But that's where the arcade's going to go. One last little thing here. Massive shout out to Flooded Tombs. I failed to shout them out on the first episode with the Pepsi vending machines. I thought they were Pac-Man. They're made by Flooded Tombs. They're amazing. I created a slightly modified one here with this FizzWiz brand, which I don't think we've talked about yet. I can't remember if Ruble talked about it, but we had a little session in the admin chat on Bro Nation trying to come up with some new brands. And yeah, I can't remember who came up with this. It may have been Eben or Ruble, but yeah, Mr. Chuffed. It's kind of a Dr. Pepper-like brand. And Ruble designed these logos for his, I don't know if he's turning it into a park, but he's had this kind of Jubilee 2.0 save file that he started when the game came out, and he's been using that in all of his YouTube videos to show off the kind of new update features. But yeah, he built this logo for his park there and very graciously sent it to me so I could adapt it onto this kind of 90s style vending machine. And I must say, I am Mr. Chuffed indeed with how this came out. Okay, I'm very sorry. Right, so that's it for this update, I think. I'm dead chuffed with how it's coming out. In the next episode, the coaster that Kindley's been working on, I think is coming along pretty well. I don't want to rush him on it, so there's plenty of other stuff to be working on in the meantime. And obviously outside the park, as I say, there's going to be all kinds of stuff along this road. I want to do like a diner, a biker bar, a go-karting track. Yeah, like I was talking about last time, some kind of giant sculpture, some kind of like comically large sculpture, like world's largest, you know, whatever. And then maybe also some kind of funky painted rock sculpture like you see out in the kind of California and Nevada desert. Loads to do, lots to think about, much to consider. Thank you once again for joining me. I'm eternally grateful for all the love and support the videos have been getting lately. As always, be good to each other, and I will catch you next time. Bye!